Calcio's back, so we're back. It's just one of those things. We took pretty much a break for most of lockdown. We had one podcast. We obviously had Raffa and Frank's amazing chronicles of Maradona's time with Napoli, which if you guys haven't checked that out, I'll drop a link to that in the show notes also. But we're back, and Napoli is back apparently also, because what a couple days it's been. So we're going to break down the Coppa Italia semifinal second leg with Inter, and then we're going to break down yesterday's final against Juventus. So let's just say our hellos and get right into it. Marco Cubani D'Onofrio, what's up, dude?
Yeah, Napoli is back, buddy. And honestly, Raffa's here too, and I don't mean to spoil his introduction, but he's probably got the big, after that video yesterday. I know I'm jumping a million guns right now, but after that video yesterday, Raffa, it brought tears to my eyes, man. That is family goals right there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to Raffa's Twitter account and watch the video of him and his soon-to-be wife. You haven't gotten married yet, right, Raffa?
No, not. COVID kind of took that away from us for a little bit, but
soon-to-be wife and his beautiful kids and the passion of Napoli, and that's what yesterday, and that's what everything was about. So I am fucking fantastic, and I hope you guys are as well.
Yeah, man, we're feeling the vibes for sure. And Raffa, this has been your ship during lockdown. You've been the Far From Vesuvius beacon out here, putting out some amazing content with Frank. So welcome back to the full Far From Vesuvius podcast.
Ken, Marco, you just made me cry again, dude. Listen, it's been an honor, Ken. You know how much this podcast means to me, and this team means to me and my family. And Marco, your words in private, and now that you've conveyed them to the public, yesterday was one of the most emotionally I don't even have words. It was one of the most proudest days of my entire life. And it's funny because it seems like we won a Scudetto. We won the Coppa Italia. It's the third one in ADL's tenure. And it's, spoiler alert for anyone who's listening. We haven't gotten into it yet. But,
it's also the second one we beat Juve in the final. That's right. In his tenure, and the third out of 4 cup finals against Juve that Napoli has won during the ADL era. Just facts. Sorry.
Facts. No, that's okay. 4th out of 5 altogether. But listen, yesterday was the kids' last day of school when it comes to being at homeschooled, and that was a lot on Allie and myself, particularly Allie, because she took the reins over because she's more creative than I am in that department. But they received awards over the internet with, the group teaching and all that. And Rocco got leader of the classroom, which made me cry. Paulie was highly recognized for his improvement in this year. That made me cry again. And then Napoli wins the Coppa freaking Italia after the season, and listen, when Milik of all, I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe I'll save this bit for later, but let's just put it this way. It all came out when the final kick went down. Marco and Ken, we started this season off in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Hey, Raffa, so sorry to interrupt you. Because I got to ask you this before you get off track, because this is important, and I'm going to forget this. Was it Rocco saying, please just score this and I'll never hate you again, I promise?
Yes.
I think we're all thinking the exact same thing, man. Just want to point out.
So Paulie had the green goalkeeper jersey on. He's the younger one. Rocco had the black belly cat jersey on. And Rocco knows the deal with Milik and the whole, speculation of Juve and all this. And so him and I together with the fact that Milik just, can't put the ball in the net when he needs to. We realize that. But Paulie is like the biggest Milik fan ever. So, yes, that was Rocco saying that. What hit me so hard about that was the emotions that ran through my body. I was about Paulie's age when we won the Scudetto in 90, and I was with my dad, and I mentioned this on the Calcio Guys. I was with my dad. We went to the Bronx to watch it at a bar, and then we hit the streets of Little Italy in the Bronx and Manhattan. And that was a proud moment in my life. I was 7, so I couldn't really feel emotion about it. And I remember seeing my dad just in tears, So to be able to have watched Napoli lift the trophy with the kids being so emotionally invested also, because when we won in 12, Rocco was a year old. When we won in 14, he was 3 and Paulie was a year old. So they couldn't possibly understand what was going on. And when those things happened, like things in my life were, up and down and a little shaky, despite having had the kids. But yesterday was just the epitome of the beautiful life that my life has turned into. And you guys are part of it, man, because like I said, we started this campaign in Ann Arbor, Michigan, dreaming of a Scudetto with Ancelotti. And the shit that we went through in this season, just everything seemed like it was for nothing. But then, and that's when I realized yesterday how much this Coppa meant to me. I said that we want to win this Coppa. This is a Coppa we need as a club. I needed this Coppa for my validation of this season. And, I'm sorry. I can't stop crying every time I think of it and watch the people's comments. And I want to thank everybody too on Twitter who's sharing and commenting. And there's such beautiful words from Napoli fans, Inter fans, Juve fans, Milan fans, all these different people coming to me in private or on Twitter in public saying these things that they're saying about me and my family and the way that I take pride in that. It just means so much to me. And I'm sorry, I'm crying like a little girl right now, but you guys don't know how much it means to me. And I want you to know that. Thank you so much to everybody. And let's get on with this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, it was the way this season has gone has been crazy. And we'll obviously get into yesterday. So we're very, very, very quickly just going to go over, the semifinal second leg against Inter, because we all know it led to what happened yesterday. So, I mean, we all saw the comments after the game, which I thought were really rich from Antonio Conte, but it's a 1-1 draw, right? Napoli play defensive pretty much most of the game. But the one thing the significant moment of this game, right, is Inter take the lead or essentially draw the tie early on, and then Dries Mertens becomes Napoli's leading goal scorer of all time to wrap us up the win in the end. And that was really the big moment of the game, right? It's really a shame to me that this had to happen when there was no fans in the stadium, especially because it happened at the San Paolo. But we get the one, we win the tie and we move on to the final. But obviously, I wanted to give Dries a moment in the sun here because he obviously deserves it. Dries's career with Napoli and sort of where he's landed himself is sort of parallel to the way this season has gone, right? Like you didn't really know what you were going to get with him, and then all of a sudden he's passing the likes of Maradona and Hamšík, and he's our leading goal scorer of all time. And the goal was, really he just had to pop an easy one into the back of the net. I think, we saw Spina who had the huge gaff early on, right? He lets in an Olympico goal between his legs. And you're thinking, here we go, right? Here we go with this. We're back, and now all of a sudden this is how it's going to go. We're going to just crumble a little bit here. And then that distribution to Insigne that selfless pass down the middle, and Dries slots at home. So, Ospina goes from GOAT to hero, and and we go from hero to Chiro as Mertens gets to become Napoli's leading goal scorer. So, I mean, I'll leave any other notes on the Inter game you guys want to get into, any praise for Mertens. So Marco, let's start with you.
Look, yeah, first and foremost, 100% Dries deserves all the credit in the world. And that's one thing I will say is when you look back on that summer where Gonzalo Higuain, Jose Callejon, Dries Mertens, Lorenzo Insigne comes up and plays for Napoli, like that was all under Rafa Benitez. And of all of those guys, Dries Mertens would be the last guy you would think at that time was going to break Diego's record. Merrick's record now. But what he's done, you hit the nail on the head. What he's done and what he means to this club, the love letter that he posted, it just says it all. And he's really taken on this city and he's embodied the club. So I'm so happy he's back and I'm so happy he's staying and I'm happy he's winning. And we're going to talk about the second league. We're going to talk about Gattuso. We're going to get into all of that. But you know what? Mertens deserves a ton of credit. Ospina went from a guy I was ripping on within 2 minutes of that game to being the man of the match. So, yeah. And you know what? And that's nothing to take away from Alex Marin. We're going to talk about him because his performance in that final really makes that conversation interesting because there's a lot of people thinking he should be the everyday starter as is. And so anyways, we're going to talk and we're going to get into all of that. Dries, first and foremost, thank you. And I mean, what else can I say? I mean, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for staying because he could have went anywhere this summer and he chose to stay. That says a lot.
Raffa.
Chiro the hero. I love that. And honestly, the video that he posted, I mean, we're talking about crying.
Yeah. If anyone hasn't seen that video that Mertens posted on his Twitter after he resigned his contract, you should do it immediately. It's amazing.
Yeah. Please look at that video because it's so touching. It really makes you wonder, like all these rumors. He never had the intention of leaving. I truly, honestly believe he never had the intention of leaving. The super sub. He was the super sub when he came in, and he still had an eye for goal. And every time he came in, there was this explosion on the pitch that you couldn't help but notice. I'd always wanted to see him in a more of a starting role, even as he came off the bench. And, it took the unfortunate incident of, Milik going down for that to happen. But, that was like the turning point in Napoli, because honestly, without Mertens, Napoli is not, they're not fighting for Scudetto. They're not playing this explosive football. They're not scoring 7 goals a match. And the goal on Saturday was just the perfect setting. And like you said, Ken, it was such a shame to not have fans available for that because that would have been perfect. But I know he feels the love from the club. And, Marco, you said it, the embodiment of a club. I mean, I feel like he embodies the city as well. Like just he's just an adopted son of Naples that now is likely not to leave, to finish his career with Napoli. And there's nothing, we could talk about the age and everybody could talk about what his quote unquote, he was slowing down, this and that. And I truly believe that things lined up for Mertens to stay, and he still has a lot more to do. I can guarantee you he's going to push for Scudetto with this club. Are they going to win it? I'm not saying they're going to win a Scudetto. It's a tough ask, but he's staying for another couple of years to try to get that done. And I think he wants nothing more than to give the fans that.
Yeah, I think he mentioned in an interview this week too. Maybe it was yesterday before the match or whenever it was. He said that during the time in quarantine, almost all the team stayed in Naples, and he decided during that time at some point that he wanted to stay because he stayed in Naples during this time, and he just feels that connection to the people. And anybody who doesn't think that, he doesn't feel it is crazy. He's I mean, he's going to be here almost a decade by the time this contract is up, I think, or maybe a little over a decade. But it's it's really a cement onto his character as not only a player but as a person, that he's really found himself to be, an adopted Neapolitan. Anytime the Neapolitans give you a Neapolitan name, I don't think he takes that lightly. And even signs off that amazing video as Ciro. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fitting. It puts a stamp on that tie. I know Conte said after the match that all we did was sit and defend, and I think that's rich coming from a coach like Conte, who's sort of made a living on doing that in the Premier League. But that's for another.
Like he didn't do that with the national
team also. I know.
Forget about it. I mean, listen. Managers will find excuses because they couldn't get the job done, and it's funny because I think Allegri said it best. It doesn't matter how you get it done as long as it gets done. It really does.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, for me, when it comes to Dries, what says it all, and I don't remember who posted this, what player posted it on Instagram. I know the IFTV guys posted as well. You saw the Napoli celebrations on the train, and they're singing Un giorno al Previso, and there's the line, ancora qua, and you see the line, like you see his joy, like that I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Like you see the pride in his face, and that's what says it all, that he's staying, and that so many guys left and he didn't.
Yep. It's one of those, by a couple of degrees of separation, something we could thank Gonzalo Higuain for leaving, right? I mean, I know Milik goes down, and that's really what sets the table for it, but that doesn't really happen if Higuain doesn't leave. So thanks, Gonzalo. You made us a son out of Mertens for you leaving for Juventus. But it's, we get through to the final, and I think that everyone's mouth started to water over the weekend. Juventus gets through against Milan, and it sets the stage for a Coppa Italia final against our former manager, against our biggest rival, against a team that we don't like, against Cristiano Ronaldo, in front of the whole world, without really too much else going on in the soccer world. I know there was a couple of Premier League games yesterday, but this was one of those opportunities where Italian soccer was really, really in the forefront. It was on ESPN in the States, just ESPN, not ESPN2, not ESPN Plus, not ESPN 8 to Ocho. It was on ESPN. Wow. It was on the main network, so it was really on a front and center stage for Italian soccer to shine.
And it delivered too, man, because there was a really good game, man. Like, it was as good a 0-0 as you can see. Juve pressing most of the first half, Napoli finding their knack in the second, and defending and trying to counterattack, losing it quickly, and then Juve coming up, and the few close calls they had, Merits did an amazing job, and the defense was wonderful, and I think it was just one of those games where it's like, oh, everybody hears about Juventus, and then here's Napoli, who everybody hears of also and has heard of lately, but no sorry, the big problems, and then here's Napoli coming out playing a really good match, and on penalties we win, but we really did deserve the result. We deserved to lift the trophy at the end of the day, and everybody knows it, and it's apparent. And I think it was a really good, showing for Italian football in this country. And it was especially because it was on ESPN too. Yeah. So ESPN also, not ESPN 2. You know what I mean?
ESPN, comma.
ESPN, comma 2. Yes.
Yeah. I think, I think the lineup we trotted out there, I mean, we made a bunch of changes again from the match against Inter. Some of them forced, some of them, I think, strategic. Yeah, I think against Inter we played a little bit more of a quote-unquote experimental lineup, just trying to get some people some rest. Obviously we had Elmas start over Fabian. We had Hisai start at left back, and Mario Rui came back yesterday. Who would have thought? Mario Rui would have been so happy to see him start a game. couple of years ago. But here he is. We're happy to see him in over Hisai. Medet comes in for Ospina, who was out on suspension. And then Callejon comes in to start over Politano. So you had a fair amount of changes coming into this match. And, I watched the match. I watched the match twice yesterday. So I watched it. The second half of the match I actually watched at work. I took a long break and somehow managed to keep my cool in the break room. And I watched it again last night when I came home. And I thought it was really a tale of two halves as far as our tactics went. I thought in the first half we were happy to just sort of sit back, let Juventus kind of do what they did, and they didn't really do too much with any of their possession. In the second half, we opened it up a little bit more. When I thought of like the 5 or 6 clear-cut chances in the whole game, we had 80% of them. I thought the only real chance Juventus had was Ronaldo on that potential breakaway, and Medet did a really good job of seeing it and coming out. And the funny thing about that is when he starts to come out, you can't tell me you're not thinking about the game last year when the whole red card and everything happens. He comes way out of his net, and this time he actually makes the play and makes a damn good play on top of it. Breaks up maybe their best chance. But Napoli had a fair amount of the chances. I thought they had the best chances in the whole game. Insigne hits the post. Deme almost scores at the end of the first half, and Buffon makes a great save with his legs. And then obviously that crazy goalmouth scramble right at the end of the game where I think everyone thought Maximovic's header went in, and then Elmas comes in and gets a poke on it. And at first I thought he just missed it at the post, but I think Buffon actually got his hand to it and pushed it onto the post, and it set us up for penalties. I thought that the match sort of went back and forth a little bit. It was entertaining. I thought it was weird that Sadi didn't use all of his subs, or at least 4, because I didn't really realize until yesterday you could only make 3 stoppages if you're going to have up to 5 subs. So it's a little wrinkle I didn't know until yesterday. But, I thought we played well. I thought overall we played well. I thought we contained Juventus. I didn't think they, aside from that one breakaway, I don't really think they had a clear-cut huge chance. I mean, maybe that Ronaldo shot in the first half that Merit parries away was maybe their other best chance. But I don't know how you guys saw it, but I didn't really see Juventus have too many chances in the whole game.
No, to be honest, I mean, at the end of the day, Gattuso's game plan worked out well, and even against Inter it did. I mean, sometimes as a fan, it's not always the most enjoyable to watch in the sense that you're nervous as hell, and you're sitting back kind of soaking in the pressure. The thing was, with Gattuso and the system that's in place, when they keep their shape, they don't allow a lot of opportunities, and they don't allow teams to create a lot. Inter really struggled to get in between the lines, and I think Juve did too. And I think that's on Gattuso, how organized he's got this team as quickly as he's got them so organized, because we saw similar tactics work out well against teams like Lazio, right? So, this is now the second time Gattuso's beaten Sarri. So I think that says a lot as well. And granted, yes, I know it was penalty kicks, but you're right. If it wasn't for Gigi, and listen, I know a lot of people are saying that he needs to retire, but yesterday he proved all the doubters wrong. I will say that. Yeah, he was absolutely incredible.
He was phenomenal. Yeah.
And even at the end, like, how does that ball not go in? When that happens, I'm thinking in my head, I was watching, with my brother and my dad and my father, and I had the family, and they were, at that point you're like, we're gonna lose. Napoli's gonna. I mean, the gods just, it's not happening for us, And when you saw the first save, again, credit Merit, and then you see Danilo's penalty kick, and all of a sudden you're like, holy crap! Like, this is kind of too good to be true. And to be honest, I was even more nervous at that point a little bit, because I was like, no, this ain't happening. But you know what? It did. And last night was reality. And give this team credit, because in December, none of us thought this was possible. And you look at it now, and you're just like, you know what? Like, Gattuso, there's nothing else you can say, because whether it's how he's turned around the locker room, how he's made this team passionate again, the leadership, even in Insigne, you see a different player both on and off the pitch. it's remarkable. It really, really is. So you know what, Napoli fans, take this moment and soak it in, because it's not every day you get to enjoy a trophy, and especially against Juve. So I know it's the Coppa Italia, and I know it's not the Scudetto yet, but we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime your team gets to lift a trophy, it's a big deal, and I think especially for us the way the season has gone. I mean, I was going to celebrate a win of a trophy no matter what, especially the way the season started. But I mean, it feels. I think to Napoli fans, this trophy just feels a little different because of it feels like we've come so far in such a short amount of time. I mean, it's a longer amount of actual time because of COVID, but I mean, if you're talking about actual game time, you're talking about 3 months of play, right? 3 months of play, you've gotten a team that let's forget about the fact that they didn't win for 9 consecutive games, right? The form was terrible, but the attitude was worse. This team was in full-on mutiny, not only against Ancelotti, but against De Laurentiis and the whole club. So this team was completely upside down. And Gattuso has come in, and in that amount of time has completely flipped it back right side up. And yeah, maybe he doesn't play the most attractive football, but he's got one. He said something after the Inter game, and it's something that a Napoli team has never had before. We didn't have it with Sarri, and we definitely didn't have it with Ancelotti, maybe aside from a couple games in the Champions League. But he said, I'm making this team not afraid to suffer during a game and still be able to win. And that has been the key difference that you see, at least short term, is that this team isn't afraid to suffer, and they play with a guile that you haven't seen. I mean, they've really taken to be like in the image of their manager right away. And that's got to be all credit to Gattuso and his staff, because he's got everybody plays on what is merited in practice and what the manager sees out of his guys, you know, off of the actual game day pitch. And you can tell that that's what he sort of preaches that. And I don't think any of that stuff is more evident than, I don't know if, I mean, in the States, they cut the footage off literally right after the last penalty kick went in. So after Milik's goal went in, they're celebrating, and ESPN's like, okay, we're cutting to Sports Center. But if you saw any alternative footage after the match, before they went and got their medals, Gattuso had the whole team, the coaching staff, and the owner, and Giuntoli all together in a huddle.
Yes.
They don't know exactly what was said, but I mean, there was, from what you could be heard, you could hear him talking about the character of the team, you know, how proud he is, and how now we have to show the people the venom, for whatever that means. And then you can hear De Laurentiis saying, you know, now it's time to go get the Champions League, I'm assuming is what he meant.
Yeah.
Did he also say, don't worry about the fines?
There's rumors that he also said the fines are going to be gone.
I mean, how can you not? How can you not?
How can you not?
Consider that? I mean, you know, like you said, Ken, it was mute. It was a complete disaster. It was absolute.
It was embarrassing.
Shambles.
It was embarrassing. Yeah.
Shambles. And you know, I wanna mention something here. You know, we talk about how Gattuso came in and changed it, flipped it right side up again. How long have we talked about the mentality of this club? And that's the main thing that we lacked, was the right mentality to go ahead and get the job done. You know, yes, we won 2 Coppa Italia, one with Benitez, one with Mazzarri. We won a Super Coppa. Those are all well and good, but it's the mentality that I feel now with Gattuso, we can do anything. And you know, the right couple players in this transfer window, and you know, watch out, because now Napoli have talent, they have togetherness in the squad, they all get along, they all are on the same page, and now they are going to have the mentality, like you said, to suffer during a match but still eke out the win. You know what I mean? Because who cares how beautiful we play? We played so beautiful with Sarri, but we got nothing to show for it. You know, record points is great. 3 straight Champions League qualifications is wonderful. You know, I'm not downplaying the things Saudi did with us, but in the end, our mentality cost us 2 Scudetto. Not 1, 2. 1 was just with 4 matches left. The one in his first season, we were miles ahead of Juventus, and they ended up coming back and taking the Scudetto. And to me, that's what this means to me is Gattuso's here, and the mentality is just going to be like we've never seen before. This is going to be a Napoli that no one's ever seen before. I'm not predicting any kind of anything, but we now will have the right attitude in a match, and that's something, like I said, we've been missing, and we need big time.
Well said. And you know what? I think 100%. And now my question becomes, in all honesty, are you guys a little bit pissed off? Because the more I think about it, and it's nobody's fault, but I'm like, are you guys a little pissed off that we didn't have Gattuso to start the season? Because especially this year, that this was the year, and that's what we were predicting, and we thought Ancelotti was the savior.
But who could foresee that? Who could foresee what happened?
No, 100. And you can never.
I mean, we were in Michigan, getting ready to celebrate a Scudetto already. You know what I mean? Honestly, and it's like we had everything going for us going into the season. We had the fact that we had the returning manager, the returning players, best
defense in Serie A.
Best defense, right? Lozano. Who could have seen Koulibaly coming out flat? Who could have seen Manolas taking a little bit of time to get accustomed to play? Who could have seen, the whole everything? You can't see it. That's why ADL came out with with what he said as far as what he said before the final, ruffled a little feathers. He should have fired Ancelotti after last season. Blah blah. I don't agree with that, because who could have seen that coming? I mean, I don't think that that's something that you can foresee before a season starts or after the season we had last year too. I mean, Juve ran away with the Scudetto, but we didn't have a terrible season, finishing second by a mile and a half. So I don't know. I just yes, you wish Gattuso, but now you can look forward to Gattuso next season and the moves we'll make, because it's probably a given that Milik will be gone. Callejon is out. You can see how they treated Callejon yesterday after the match. So fans in the United States watching on ESPN couldn't watch the after match, but on Rai, which is what I watched it on, you saw everything. So Callejon is on the ground crying. They're slapping him the way they slapped Lavezzi after the Coppa Italia final when he left. So all indication.
Yeah, he cried for like 20 minutes straight.
Yeah, he's out. He's gone. And no matter how you feel about him, he's done a fantastic job here. But his time with Napoli is up, and it was evident yesterday. Milik is most certainly not staying. Although now I'm a little bit more soft on Milik because of the last penalty kick. That I was sure he was going to miss that penalty kick, and we were going to have to see Ronaldo come up. I was sure of it, but no, he buries it and wins us the Coppa Italia. So no matter what he does, I have to have a soft spot for him now. But he's going to be gone. Lozano's not staying, that's for sure. Alan, who knows, because even though he's featured as a substitute under Gattuso in the last 2 matches, it's clear that I think that he's worth some money, and Gattuso has other plans. Who knows what's going on with Koulibaly? I don't want him to go anywhere, but his contract has a release clause that is activated at the end of the season. He's probably going to go. So, it depends on who comes in and everything. But like I said, with Gattuso at the helm, we now have the attitude. No matter who comes in, we're going to have the attitude and look at guys like Petagna and Ramrani and the guys that we bought and are on loan, and those that are thinking of coming to Napoli. They watch Gattuso and they're like, oh man, I can't wait to come on this squad and be part of this group. I can guarantee that. So we have that going for us towards next season. So hindsight being 2020, yeah, of course we want Gattuso at the start, but now we can look forward to him coming in next season and hopefully lighting Serie A on fire.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to look forward to, right? I guess my only reservation is I hope that we don't come out on fire these 3 months and then, next season peter off a little bit, because I feel like now he's come in and he's been the savior, but I hope that he can continue with us at the rate that he's going. I'm not saying he's going to win every single game, obviously, but I think that at least right now, report card has got to be A+, right? He comes in, turns it around. He's getting the best out of the players. He's leading by example, which is huge. And I feel like the players feel like they can relate to him because he's played. He didn't stop playing that long ago. He's only 42 years old, so he's been in their shoes relatively recently. This is a guy who, when these players were old enough to understand, saw this guy winning Champions Leagues and World Cups, on their TVs, and is somebody that they can look forward to, and somebody who still sort of, with me, he still presents himself like a player. He doesn't present himself necessarily as a coach yet. He's still one of the guys. He's going to be like that for the next 4 or 5 or 6 years, before maybe until he gets to be 50 or so. But I feel like he can still be very relatable to players. Obviously, we know that he's a demanding coach, but this is the type of manager that Napoli needs, and we can go over the track record. Anytime we have a coach who's a little bit more of a drill sergeant, we get the best out of the teams, right? Sarri was a manic lunatic and got the team very, very close to achieving amazing things. Mazzarri is also a little bit of a nut and holds players accountable, and he's sort of the catalyst for us being quote unquote back in Serie A. So we needed a coach like this. I thought that he was really given the short end of the stick at Milan, because Milan is a disaster. Was a disaster when he got there, and it's a disaster now again without him. So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? He got them 1 point from a Champions League spot last year, and they performed really well, and they almost won a Coppa Italia last year, and they still decided to let him go. And now they're going to be on their third manager in 12 months by the time the end of the season's over, because I know Pioli's not going to stay. So, hindsight's 2020 for Milan, and hindsight's 2020 for us. I think when we were in Michigan talking to Ancelotti, that we had a special feeling in the air, and it didn't take too long, unfortunately, for the true colors to show. And I don't, no one knows really what the deal was. I mean, you hear players hinting at, it was a little lax or whatever the case was, but maybe we won't ever know the real story or what happened, how he lost the dressing room so bad. But roll on Gattuso, as far as I say. This is going to be a nice little feather in the cap for this season, because the roller coaster we've been on has been crazy, but it's crazy, but it also feels like a very Napoli year, right? High expectations, highest of the highs, lowest of the lows. You beat Liverpool, you don't win in 9 games in a row, you change your managers, and now you're lifting a trophy. So it's been wild, and I think that some players that we've really seen the best out of recently, I think you guys touched on it. Insigne, I think, has been much better under Gattuso. He needs someone that can direct him. I think Fabian is now playing in his natural role, the role he wants to play in, and you can see a difference in the way that he's playing. Koulibaly, the last 2 games, I know that he was out for a long time with an injury, but he was not the same player the first half of the season. And I thought he was okay against Inter, and I thought he was outstanding yesterday. It felt like Koulibaly was back yesterday. And Nikola Maximovic has been a revelation under Gattuso, whether it's been with Manolas or Koulibaly. And I think a lot of the players have really stepped up. I mean, and I know it's a bit of a contentious issue, but it's not the worst thing in the world to have 2 different goalkeepers be man of the match, in my opinion, back-to-back games. I thought Ospina really deserved man of the match after the semifinal second leg, even after his big gaffe. And I thought Meret was amazing yesterday. And that penalty save on Dybala was so sweet. So just some thoughts on some players that I thought are really, really starting to ramp it up. But I mean, I'll leave it up to either of you guys if you have anything else you want to say about the final before we get into some Ask FFV. Marco, anything else to add?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think, honestly, for me, Maximovic deserves a ton of credit because he was so underrated, underused for so long with this club that it looked
Yep.
like a bust of a signing.
Yep.
And what he's been able to do, and you look at, again, we were so excited coming into this season to have that partnership in the middle of the fence with Koulibaly and Manolas, and we've barely seen it. And especially under Gattuso, and Napoli haven't missed a beat. So you got to give them a ton of credit. I mean, they haven't conceded. Okay, they conceded that gap, whatever the hell you want to call it, whatever the hell that was, against Inter within the first 2 minutes of play. But then they hadn't conceded. And they haven't conceded a goal since, right? So that in itself is really, really impressive, considering you don't have your top two center backs. So again, I think there's a lot to be said. And what I found really, really interesting, and I got to mention this, and I'm glad I remembered to mention this, was Hisai's agent, who's been talking so much shit
Oh,
for the
yeah.
last year and a
Oh,
half,
yeah.
2 years. All of a sudden is singing a completely different tune.
Yep.
Has no issues with 2 or 3 of his clients playing the same position on the same club anymore. And now all of a sudden Hisai's thinking of extending. So when we were talking about earlier, I know Raffa mentioned that, guys who haven't even come to the club, they're already excited to play under Gattuso. Guys on the club who were talking all kinds of shit, all of a sudden are really, really happy at the club. So, You know what? That speaks volumes. Enough said.
Yeah, agreed. Rafa?
As far as the final goes, I really want to tip my hat to Meret, man. Like, because honestly, the guys on the Calcio Guys, by the way, Calcio Guys, fantastic podcast. Awesome guys. Please go check it out, everybody. Check out the Calcio Guys. They're wonderful, wonderful podcast. They asked me who I think the pressure would be on going, like, in the future, going forward. Who's playing under the most pressure? It might have been a social media question, but whatever. But I said Insigne, given the fact he's Neapolitan, he's the captain, and now he's got a resurgence. But I also said that Meret would have a lot of pressure on him because word was that Ospina was going to leave this summer, leaving obviously Meret to be the number one starter. There was also talk about Meret possibly going, but I don't see that happening at all. Like, not
No,
with the
I don't either.
No way. But I had said that Meret had a lot of pressure, especially in the final, on him, because of the fact that he was left out of favor with Gattuso, so to speak. Whether it be Ospina, he prefers Ospina because of the distribution or whatnot, injury, whatever. Meret really came through yesterday, big time. Ospina had a lot more match like saving saves against Inter. If not for Ospina, we probably aren't talking about Napoli lifting a cup this season. Yeah. But Meret also had a wonderful save against Ronaldo in the first half. Had the brilliant, like you said, Kenny, that last season we thought, it was a flashback of last season with the red card, but came through with that that stop on Ronaldo, the penalty save, the distribution, the calmness, he really manned that defense, and he deserves all the praise in the world. He came through big time, because there were some people saying, "Oh, well, he hasn't played in a while. He's a little shaky. He, has a blunder here and there." But you know what? So does Ospina. So does Donnarumma. So does every goalkeeper in the world. They just do. But we were very worried about that, and he just really showed his potential, and I'm so happy to have the team that we have. I was going to say the goalkeepers we have, but the whole team performs so well. You can't say enough about the togetherness of this club. Maksimovic deserves so much praise. Koulibaly is I saw it against Inter, but maybe you didn't see it, Ken, but I saw a better play is what I saw. And then, like you said, yesterday was just the old Koulibaly, and Insigne is a leader, man. And I don't know. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be a Napoli fan and to see the cup and them lift the trophy. But I'm also so happy for them, for the players, because you can tell it's a totally different tune than January.
Yeah, agreed. And just two more player shout outs before we head to Ask FFE. One, I thought Politano had his best game as a Napoli player yesterday, even though it was in a cameo. He almost set up a goal. He scored a penalty. I just thought it was his best bit of play, so I just want to give him a little pat on the back there. Good job. I also like anytime anyone shushes Juventus players, nice.
Oh, yeah.
And Diego Demme, I mean, I love this guy. I love him. Love him so much. We want to talk about a great signing for not that much money. 10 million euros or whatever it was, 12 million. I know he's 28 or 29, but damn, he's been so good. I'm really, really happy to see him on our team. But let's move on. We got some Ask FFV to go to. We have 5 or 6 questions, so I figured we'll just start now. Ashley Pierce 84 on Twitter asks, with our style of play under Gattuso based on solid defense, organization, and counterattacking, are we now more hopeful of getting a result in the new camp when Champions League returns in August? Raffa, start with you. What do you think?
Well, you see, yes, I do think we're hopeful to get a result there. Is it even going to be at the new camp? Like, I don't know the details of the Champions League restart. Okay, yes, so it will be in the new camp, and then from the quarterfinals on, they're gonna basically
be in Portugal.
Portugal. Okay, yeah. Then what? Then we read the same thing, and yeah, I mean, no fans at the new camp, so that's a something that's in our favor. No Vidal or Busquets, through suspension, but Suarez is back from injury. But yeah, I mean, I think it's massive that we have these, 12 matches left to play inside a month. I mean, it's going to be pretty tiring, but we're going to be in match shape. So will Barcelona. But I do think that, like, the fact that Gattuso is able to, sit back a little bit and sort of have his opposition play rope-a-dope, and then kind of pounce, in the final 30 minutes of the match. And I think that we have a real good chance of qualifying over Barcelona. Obviously, we have to overcome that, away goal that they scored. And, we'll need to score a goal, obviously. But I see it happening. If we're flying on all cylinders, then, why not?
Yeah, I hear that. Marco, what do you think? Shot at the new camp?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, absolutely. Yeah, that's the answer. I don't think it's easy, and I think it will be tough going there knowing you need a goal. I don't think that's going to change things too much, because I do think Barcelona is still going to pressure and try to get a goal anyways. But the fact that they don't need a goal might hurt a little bit, because Napoli's been so good at being able to sit back and counter teams. So, if you're going to the new camp with that 1-0 lead, if we hadn't conceded late, it would have been nice. But I do think Napoli does have a chance, and certainly they have a better chance than ever before, because this team is believing in themselves more than ever before. And I know Raffa touched upon that earlier with the mentality. I mean, you see that this team really does have confidence, and more than anything, that's crucial, especially in a tournament like the Champions League.
I think Cheeto. I think Cheeto is like, I mean, what's he got? 6 goals in the tournament now, or what have you? I think he's playing his best football in the Champions League this season.
Agreed.
And I think that's like a mentality thing as well. It'll be interesting to see how they go about Serie A. They have to overcome 9 points in Atalanta for 4th, which is not impossible. This is a restart. Everything is just like, obviously we had momentum back in March 18th. I was really feeling good about us taking care of business in the new camp, but this is all a restart. So it's very hard to really predict what's going to happen until we start seeing play, from La Liga and Serie A, and see how things kind of come about. injuries. There's bound to be something happen.
Yeah, it's too much time to say
exactly
based on form or anything. We've
there are
got
too many
12
matches
games.
to play.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's only 6 or 7 weeks away, but there's a lot of matches between now and then. So yeah, I mean, obviously I agree with you guys. Of course, I think we have a chance. I don't think there's any reason to believe that we don't have a chance. Especially, I mean, I think in one of those weird things that, having no fans is really to our advantage, obviously. Not having fans at the new camp is a pretty big deal. So I think that's definitely in our favor. Whether or not that means we're going to win at the new camp, I don't know. I know we have a shot. I know we can hold them to 1 goal or less. So we got to score, or that's the only thing, like Marco said, we have to score. We have to score a goal. So, and I don't think that Barcelona is going to, quote, sit back. I just don't think that it's in their DNA, but it is a little bit of added pressure to know that you have to score a goal and push out and maybe expose yourself a little bit more to getting beat on a counterattack with Griezmann, Messi, and Suarez coming back at you the other way. But, I mean, we've only given up 4 goals in our last 7 games, including, all 4 of those 7 games have been against Inter, Juventus, or Barcelona as it is. So we have a chance, of course. It's too early to tell. Who knows what our form is going to look like then. Hopefully it's good. I mean, we're going to be coming literally right off the back end of the season. The season ends on August 2nd, and we play Barcelona on the 7th. So it's going to be a lot of games coming hard and fast. I feel fortunate that we're in good form and we are deeper than we were a couple months ago. But yeah, it's a little too early to say definitively. Let's see. Sal at S. Debrita 93 asks if top 4 is an attainable goal. I'll start this one off. And I mean, it's attainable mathematically, yes. And can we do it? Yes. This is a little bit similar to that Barcelona question. Like, we can do it, but damn, that's a lot of points to recover in 12 games. We have to basically make up a point every single game. I know we play Atalanta. I know we play Roma, and I know Atalanta's got some tough fixtures, but it's not going to be easy. It's a lot of ground to make up, and especially, I think maybe before we were maybe hoping the Champions League in the middle of those games could bust up Atalanta's flow, but obviously that's not happening now. So Atalanta, I think, plays the best football, like pure viewing football. If you're a neutral, Atalanta plays the best football in Serie A. I think that it's really up. It's more up to them than it is to us, because even if we win out, but Atalanta doesn't drop enough points, we still can't get in. So we need big help to get to the top 4. I mean, obviously we're in Europe next year. The Coppa Italia victory seals that. We're in Europa League at the bare minimum, so we will be in Europe. But Marco, what do you think? You think it's attainable for us to get top 4?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, it really comes down to Atlanta dropping points. The teams ahead of us dropping points, Roma dropping points. I mean, yeah, you're right. The Champions League not being around and Atlanta not having to play those games, especially when they've qualified for the quarterfinals, which is incredible and credit to them, definitely helps their case. But I don't know, because in all honesty, we're in such uncertain times, and teams are going to be tested like we've never seen before. And I do apologize. There's a siren driving by, so if you hear that in the background, that's what that is. But again, like I said, we don't know what we're going to see from teams. And Napoli has come out looking pretty good out of this quarantine, but we don't know what Atlanta is going to look like. And especially over the course of 12 games, where now all of a sudden you have 5 subs, which I think has actually really helped Napoli a lot. And I think it's helped Gattuso a lot in terms of getting guys into the game and keeping them involved in the squad. So I think that's actually been really, really big. And you're seeing the depth of Napoli's bench as well, because, you haven't even seen Lozano play yet. Llorente hasn't played yet, right? So there's still a ton of players that we haven't even seen yet. So I do think it's an attainable goal. I just, honestly, let's see what this team is made of. But let's just try to enjoy the Copa right now, because that is important. And as fans, that's what we need to do is just enjoy the moment and let the players worry about trying to finish top four. Whether it happens, it happens. But hey, at least you know you're going to be playing European football next year. I mean, we want the Champions League, yes,
Of course.
but damn, that was such a terrible start to the season. We really did hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, this was looking like it was going to be 2008, 2009 all over again, where we kind of started out really well and then ended up friggin' 13th place, and no European football. Since then, we have qualified for 11 straight European competitions, 12 in 13 seasons, and it is the longest stretch of European play in Italian football. So, yes, the Champions League is special and we want to play there, but we are the most consistent club, aside from Juventus winning 8 Scudetto in a row, obviously. But we are the most consistent club in Italy, and there's a lot to say there. And, in like we've said, it's like beating a dead horse, but it was looking like we'd get nothing this year. Not a Coppa, not Europe, not nothing. And now we're in a really good place. I think the pressure is off a little too, because we have a trophy this season, and now I think the guys are just going to want to go out there and have fun. But like you said, Marco, it's very difficult to tell. Atalanta could, it's a lot to ask these teams to come back from the COVID-19 break off 3 months and play meaningful competitive football with things on the line, whereas normally they're getting ready to play like Serie C sides for friendlies for preparation for next season. They've got to come back off an entire summer basically and come in and play 3 games, a match every 3 to 5 days until the end of the month. And so in that regard, Atalanta, we have to see what they're made of playing every 3 to 5 days. Also, it's like they might not have the Champions League in between Serie A fixtures, but there is still a congested schedule. So this is pretty much a reset for everyone. I mean, I think this is Lazio's biggest chance to win the Scudetto against Juve, to be honest with you. 1 point behind them and all this football to play. And look how Juve has played the last 2 games, and Lazio can come out like an animal and just completely overtake Juve, if you ask me. So it's like, you never know what's going to happen here. And it's just, it's hard to determine. So I think, like you said, Ken, let's just enjoy, or Marco said it. We all said it. Enjoy this time right now because, hey, we're Coppa Italia champions.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, shout out to Sal. I don't know if you guys remember, but Sal's our, tickets.
Yes.
Was our ticket? Yeah, Sal drove from New Jersey to Michigan in one night to get tickets to the Napoli game in Michigan when we were all there. He drove straight to the party, and So shout out Sal. Thanks for the question, dude. We don't forget. We don't forget.
No, we don't. I just found the video from the video that I took of Sal and his buddy. That we took, that we posted on our Twitter on my iPad, and I hadn't seen the video since we took it that day because it's on my iPad and I just don't scroll all the way up on those pictures, and I just took me back to a time where my God, we got to do this again. If they come back here, we have to do it again.
Agreed. But yeah, next question. Let's see. We have Gaius Krakis ask us, what's your take on Koulibaly's good form over the past 2 games? Is he just better with Maksimovic, or did he just need the extra time off? I mean, I think we touched on this question pretty much. He missed a lot of time with injury, especially right after Gattuso was hired. He hurt his hamstring or whatever it was in that loss to Fiorentina, I think it was. But yeah, I mean, I think yesterday he played amazing. So hopefully he can continue it. I don't know. It's funny that now we're just saying, is he just better with Maksimovic? Maybe he doesn't jive with Manolas. We don't know. I don't think we know. He hasn't really had a chance to gel with Manolas, really. Manolas was hurt for a little while, and then we had to change of manager, and then he got hurt for a while. So I think we'll probably find out maybe on Tuesday. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything else to add about Koulibaly. I think we touched on it, but I'll leave the floor open if you guys have any thoughts.
Yeah, no, just quickly, I think you're right. I think it's way too early to know how he's played with Manolas because we just haven't seen them really together. And yeah, him and Maximovic might be a little bit more familiar together. And again, we're praising Maximovic earlier, so it's truth be told, even when Manolas comes back, it's a nice problem to have. You've got three center backs that you really trust, and it's been a while since you could say that. And you throw Di Lorenzo in that back line, and all of a sudden, you trust this defense. So yeah, it's nice to see Koulibaly, the Koulibaly we've known for the last few years anyway. So yeah, and again, he was hurt, right? And even when he came back and he played that one game, he wasn't healthy.
He wasn't right.
See that.
Yeah.
He wasn't. And I think, he might be one of those guys that really benefited from just having 3 months off, from not having to play international games, not having to play club games. Because this is a guy who's played a lot of football. I mean, he played almost every single game for Napoli. Okay. This year aside, during the Sarri years, even Ancelotti, I mean, he played every single game basically. So he's played a lot of football, and he's got a lot of mileage in those legs over the last few years. And honestly, I think he just needed a break. And maybe we're gonna benefit in the sense that teams are really gonna be struggling economically after this COVID-19 situation. That nobody can trigger that release clause, and let's touch wood that happens, and we get him for at least one more summer one more season, because I would love to see him and Manolas together for an entire Serie A season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think next season, if Koulibaly stays, and I think part of it will depend on who else is outgoing, right? Like, I think if we end up selling Alan and, Callejon is gone and we sell Milik, and I think that might be enough economic stimulus to sort of ease off on trying to sell anybody else. And thinking about next year, if Koulibaly stays and you have your four center backs at any given time being Maximovic, Manolas, Koulibaly, and Ramani, I think that's a really, really strong center back sort of quadrant there. I think any of those guys. I think Ramani has been really good this season, and I'm excited to see him come in. So, I mean, I think that it gives us something to look forward to for next year at the defense. So, we're going to have to wait and see, but thanks for the question. Chris Kelly, big friend of the show. Chris, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you and your family are doing well, man. Do you see, well, we've sort of touched on this also. Do you see KK, Allen, Callejon et al. Staying or leaving? What about the players already on loan? I think we're going to see some combination of those guys leave, right? Callejon, I think Raffa said it best earlier. You saw his reaction after the game yesterday. I think that's a pretty good indicator that he's moving on. Whether or not that actually happens will remain to be seen. But I think that you're right, Raffa. I think that the writing is on the wall. I mean, he spent a lot of time emotionally reflecting on that match. And I think that that's sort of a indicator that we might be seeing the last of him after this season. I think Alan is gone. I think Ancelotti wants him. That's the rumor. Ancelotti wants him at Everton. He can have him. I think Alan has been a warrior for us, but I think that Gattuso might be looking for someone else to fill in that slot. And I think maybe he's just not played himself out of the midfield, because I don't think that's necessarily accurate. But I think that Gattuso is very comfortable with a player like Deme, who's got some of that defensive guile that Alan has, but is also just a little bit more of a sort of regista in the fact that he's just a really good short passer and can control the tempo of the game a little bit better than him. And I think he loves having two central midfielders that can push forward. And I think having Fabian and Zielinski has satisfied those needs. So it might be up to Alan if he wants to stay on as a bench player, but I think we could probably still get a fair amount for him. I mean, obviously, this is all speculation. I have no idea. Like Marco said, we have no idea what economically what it's going to look like. I don't know if there's going to be any huge transfers this summer. Teams might need to use this season as a timeout and do only smaller transfers, but we'll see. And the players out on loan, I don't know if you're talking about like Ramani and Petagna. I think they're both going to be Napoli players next year. I'm a little excited to see Petagna because I think that Gattuso might be able to squeeze a little bit more out of him. And he's been pretty good for a really bad team. So I think that's pretty good. I don't know whether – I mean, you could see that Gattuso, unlike some of our other managers, when we have the shorter guys in, actually doesn't needlessly cross the ball into the box a million times, which is cool. But when we get Petagna, you have a real sort of aerial threat, somebody who can hold the ball up and let those smaller guys get forward. I think he could be a player for us. And Ramani, I think, has been great. So I'll toss it up to Raffa. What do you think?
I mean, I agree with almost everything you said. I mean, actually, pretty much everything you said. I wouldn't be surprised if Petagna is dealt for, another top, name or something like that. But at the same time, I also wouldn't be surprised if he sticks around. I think he's the type of player that Gattuso, can mold into what he needs. And, let's not forget Mertens resigned. So, the day of the Coppa Italia final, Mertens is resigned until 2022. So, there's no doubt that Mertens is going to feature in that striker position as well. So, for Petagna to be there, possibly off the bench or maybe, for rotation purposes, I think it's a pretty decent, player to have. And, a lot of people give him a lot of slack because he, like you said, he's played on some pretty bad teams, but he really is a pure goal scorer, and he can hold up the ball and he can bring it up and he's something that we really could use, especially with, I think, the imminent sale of Milik. I'm still crossing my fingers and won't give up hopes on Cavani. I don't care what the two of you say.
Boy.
I don't care.
Oh, my God, Raffa.
Listen,
come on.
Give me crap all you want. It's my dream. It's my dream. I'm allowed to have it.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
Gosh.
Yes, I am. This guy can come in and do wonders for us.
This guy's not coming.
All right. Well,
Scratch it from the record. Mark my words right now. June 18th. I will buy Raffa a Cavani jersey for next season if Cavani comes this summer.
Thank you. It's a bet. You just gotta find a 4X and we're good. Hey, all this COVID weight I put on. But no, in all honesty, you actually Ken, you're right, man. Like teams this year, I think, are gonna be really stingy. I don't think there's gonna be this world transfer fee,
There's no way.
record-setting. No way. Not after the regression every team in sports has taken. It's just not possible. I mean, I think what they say they've extended the transfer window to like October, I think, and then they're gonna have another one in January.
They announced the dates, and I don't remember them offhand. I should have had some better notes here, but I think it's essentially from the first week of September to the first week of October, since essentially this season won't end with Champions League until I think the second to last weekend in August, or the last weekend in August.
And then when does next season start? Are they starting on time? Are they? Then they got Euro 2021. It's a lot to.
It's a shrugging emoji. We don't know. We don't know what's happening.
It is. So it's hard to put. It's hard to answer these questions, guys. We're doing it as much as we can, as to the best of our ability, but the unknown is just too overwhelming for us, and we'll see it all unfold, together. And that might be a boring answer, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I agree. Marco, any thoughts?
He's a bulldog. That's what I do know. And I mean, he can come in and play a role. I mean, I almost envision him as like playing that Pavoletti role. Giuseppe Moscata at one point.
Ooh,
yeah. You know what I mean? And so, who knows? Again, I do think he will get a chance, especially. with Gattuso as the manager because he seems like a Gattuso kind of player.
Yeah.
Where he's all Garinta, So
yes.
So let's see what happens. And you're right, Raf. We're just trying to answer these questions the best we can, and as honest as we can, right?
Yeah. Bear with us, everybody. The far from Vesuvius crystal ball is in the repair shop. Okay, so it's been 3 months without football, and we don't know. The real answer to all these questions is we don't know.
But what I do know, and sorry to interrupt, but what I do know is I've been drinking a lot of White Claw lately.
Oh, you and me both, man.
Oh
my goodness.
I don't want to sound like some trendy hippie or something, because that's what I thought this drink was. But it's fantastic. It really is.
White Claw, we will accept endorsements. So if you want to sponsor the podcast,
let us know.
You can send it all to Raffa and Marco's house.
Lime flavored.
Spoken like a true beer man.
Yeah. You can send it all there. It's cool. But I mean, if you want to sponsor us, that's also cool. Then I'll drink White Claw. Actually, you can send some to me. But so last question. The Calcio guys sent us a question right under the gun here, last minute, which is good.
Oh, the Calcio guys, my boys.
First off, did you guys get any sleep last night? I mean, I actually slept like a baby last night. I was very happy. All jokes aside, can we carry this momentum, if you want to call it that, to spill over into the second leg versus Barca in the Champions League? And did this lockdown / halt and play act as a blessing in disguise, or ruin their run of form pre-COVID? Well, it didn't ruin our form because we came out and just won a trophy. So, bam. I mean, I guess the rest is we sort of answered some of the other questions. Hopefully the momentum train continues, right? And we're able to just roll on to the end of the season, give Gattuso a nice contract extension for a couple of years, and have this roll on to next season. It's going to be crazy. There's no real off season this year, really. What's the most they're going to get? A month, right? Something like that. 6 weeks to get everything together, to get everything squared away for next season.
Yeah.
I mean, I do agree that it'll be a blessing in disguise, sort of. I mean, Gattuso is going to be able to really put a stamp on this team because they're not really going to have any time away from him. No Euros this year, no international tournaments, no, Miami trips, none of that nonsense. So, I mean, I think it's good for our focus. It's good for our focus. It's good to keep these guys together. It's good to, you could tell these guys trust each other a lot. You could tell that this team is starting to form something potentially special, and I mean, hopefully we can continue to roll the momentum on. Man, I'll shut my yap now, and I'll let Marco and Raffa chime in with whatever they'd like to say about it. But yeah, I'd like to see the momentum continue, and hopefully we can do it.
Yeah, no, and I do. I think we answered. I mean, I answered a little bit earlier when we were talking about Barcelona, and you know what? Anything's possible. And at this moment, again, especially after you saw the joys and the celebrations last night, what's cool and what will be interesting is typically a Coppa Italia final happens at the end of the season. You play for your trophies at the end of the year. It's going to be interesting to see how winning a Coppa with 12 games left in a season, and with a whole lot still to play left in the Champions League, how that affects them. So that'll be interesting. But again, just what can I say? It's a fun time. It's an exciting time, and you're right. Let's hope the momentum keeps going. And Gattuso seems to have this team playing for him, and we've praised him throughout the show. And I mean, at the end of the day, yesterday, as happy as I was for everybody else, especially with what's happened with Gattuso and with his sister, there's nobody that meant more to, or nobody who deserved that more. So one, I want to give him a lot of credit for that, and I'm happy for him. And the other guy for me is also Insigne, and I should have mentioned this a little bit earlier. I did tweet this from the account, which, by the way, if you're trying to tweet at Kubani7, I've been banned from Twitter.
What? Still what the heck happened?
Yeah. Still appealing that. This Bundesliga bullshit. And, it kind of is my fault. It kind of isn't. I tweeted a video of Alphonso Davies the Bundesliga complained, and right now I don't know if I'm permanently suspended, but I'm not in the good books. So yeah, I'm protesting. I'm seeing what's going to happen with that. But I did tweet that Lorenzo Insigne is now the third consecutive Napoli captain to lift the Coppa Italia. And I didn't tweet this, but it's, he's the second Napoli-born captain in the ADL era. And I will still argue that Hamsik is a Napolitan, true anyways. But, the second Napoli-born captain to lift the trophy in the ADL era. And I'm sorry, there's a plane flying over. But regardless.
It's a lot going on over there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm in my garage. I came out to get away from the insanity in my house, and there's more outside my house. But clearly, based on the scenes yesterday in Naples and the planes flying above.
Sound like Shea Stadium.
Yeah. I don't know if we're in a pandemic anymore, but either way, it's good times. I'm happy. I miss you guys. I love you guys. Forza Napoli.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
The answer to the question to the culture guys is after I was finished with my story, my Instagram story, I fell asleep around 1:00, so I had to get my story in. I slept like a baby too, but it wasn't until a little later. There was a lot of celebrating going on in the Rispo household. That's for damn sure. They asked if this time off was a blessing in disguise. And I was trying to find the way to kind of sneak this in today on air, and I didn't think it would be tasteful to say that. But when you really do think about it, like football-wise, yes, I think this was a blessing in disguise because of everything that was going on with the club inside and out, behind the scenes and on the pitch. A reset is exactly, I think, what we needed. And I think it's going to be what a lot of clubs need. And it's what my business needed, I opened my doors back up 2 weeks ago, and it was like a whole new world, and we've been busier than ever. And I feel like this was a real time to sit back and reflect on a lot of things going on in this world. COVID, all the protesting, everything that's going on in this world today, this was a good time to be with your families. I spent so much time with my family. I'm sure the players spent all their time with their family. Like I really do believe that this was a true reset on the planet Earth, and in life. So the fact that there was no football for 3 months, and then we lost the Olympics, we lost the Euro 2020, we lost the preseason, hoopla. But now we have football. We have to finish this season. Then we have to get right back into next season. And Ken, you mentioned about a month off. Not if you go deep into the Champions League. I believe the Champions League final is slated to be August 24th. That's usually around the time we're doing a draw for next season's Champions League. So this is all gonna happen, one after the other, and it's gonna be really cool to see. I'm really interested to see how this plays out. And yeah, I'm just, there's so much great stuff going on right now aside from all the hoopla. Let's really try to keep, everybody safe, keep yourselves safe. Let's not get into another situation where we have to be shut down again. Let's stick up for what we believe in, everybody. And, let's just be, I don't even know how to say it. Let's go. Let's go. Right, Ken? Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. And just like that, we're going to let's go right off the air. So, as always, guys, the drill. Forza Napoli.
Sempre.